Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. And again, we're very, very honored and privileged to have with us Judge Andrew Napolitano, a man of men when it comes especially to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, which we have no rights anymore. I guess the Constitution is just a thing of the past. Thanks for being here, Judge. I'm brokenhearted. Week after week, what you're writing, and you have an article coming out tomorrow. It's in the Trends Journal now. The coming constitutional ice age. Last fall, during the opening of the United Nations in New York City, I recognized the face of a federal officer from his days working in law enforcement in New Jersey, and mine as a trial judge. We chatted, and I asked him, what was he doing? He told me he worked for Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE. I asked him, what does ICE has to do with the UN? And he told me that soon ICE will be everywhere. When I asked if ICE has become a paramilitary force answerable to the White House, he just smiled as if to say, don't quote me. When I asked him why he was carrying 2 handguns and an AK-47 automatic rifle, he laughed and said, quote, I have more than you can see, Judge.
This was a nice guy with whom I had many encounters when he was in state law enforcement and I was a state judge. He was being open and honest to me. And this, of course, was October. So this is before the murders in Minneapolis. This is before the virtual invasion of Minneapolis by ICE. But he obviously knew what he was talking about. My column, The Coming Ice Age, of course, is a play on words. It is an ice age because of this opinion out of a federal appellate court in New Orleans, basically saying that ICE doesn't need the search warrants that the FBI and the DEA and all other federal agents need. You ready for this? ICE agents can write their own warrants as long as one agent authorizes another. This is basically what 2 federal judges ruled. Now, I expect this ruling will be overturned, but they did rule it, and until it's disturbed either by the remainder of the judges on that court or by the Supreme Court in Texas, in Mississippi, and in Louisiana, the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply. ICE wants your phone, they'll take it. ICE wants your car, they'll take it. ICE wants to come in your house and take your children, they'll take them. That's effectively what they ruled. So this turned my stomach, and in reading the opinion, it brought back the memory of this rather benign, even pleasant conversation that I had with this ICE agent, and it didn't dawn on me what he told me until I thought back, knowledgeable as I am now of all the horrors in Minneapolis, especially those 2 murders, and then this horrible decision from the federal court in New Orleans.
It's disgusting. I mean, this guy, look at these people in these uniforms, masks on, and carrying all these guns and other things that he says he doesn't even have, they tell you about. I have more than you can see. AK-47, handguns. I mean, this isn't a police state. This is worse.
I mean, the NYPD, which is the largest police department in the United States other than ICE, doesn't dress that way, exposes their faces, has nameplates, wears badges. If you stop a cop on the street and say, can I copy down your badge number? He has to stop and let you copy it down. That's the law in New York. If you stop an ICE agent, they'll push you to the ground, take your telephone, if you're trying to photograph them, and run away. And then you'll never even know who did this to you. and you might get the phone back, or you might find it tossed to the side of the road, or you might find it destroyed. So this is becoming a police state. The guy that I had this conversation with was dressed as if he was going to storm a hill.
Yeah.
That's what startled me. I mean, why walking through New York City with a weapon like this? This is a weapon that, if you hold the trigger back, all of the ammunition comes out. This is what, when we were kids, we used to call a machine gun. This is not lawful for anybody to have other than in wartime.
You know, there's an article in today's New York Times. DHS claims in 4 shootings fizzles in court. The Trump administration was quick to pin the blame. Days after federal immigration agents shot at Philip Brown, you ready? A U.S. citizen last October at a busy commercial intersection in Washington, D.C., a spokeswoman for the Department of Homeland Security claimed Mr. Brown had, quote, made a deliberate attempt, end quote, to run officers down with his car. Mr. Brown, 33 years old, was arrested, charged with a felony, fleeing from law enforcement, and spent 3 days in jail. In court, however, the case against Mr. Brown quickly unraveled as a judge found that the government failed to present any evidence supporting its claims. The judge dismissed the charges, and the agents had fired his weapons. The agent had fired his weapons on, quote, for reasons that are completely unclear to me. It goes on in here. The Trump administration's rush to declare Mr. Good and Mr. Preddy at fault for instigating violence was quickly undercut by a barrage of viral videos. And it goes on in 4 of the shootings where prosecutors brought assaults, other charges, including against Mr. Brown. The cases fizzled after evidence emerged that contradicted the administration's initial description of events. This goes on and on. They keep lying and doing this stuff. Lying in front of our eyes. These guys dressed up in all this military with masks on, beating the hell out of people, shooting them, beating women up. This is disgusting.
It's also criminal, but none of them will be prosecuted while Trump is in office. You know, these crimes have, depending upon where they are, either 5 or 7 year statutes of limitations. So I expect a lot of these prosecutions to occur, you know, after Trump leaves office. The Minnesota people, the evidence of the murders in Minnesota of Rachel Good and Alex Preddy have been seized and kept by the feds. The Minnesota investigators have developed their own evidence and now believe they have enough to go before a grand jury and indict the ICE agents. That'll set up a constitutional clash that the federal courts will have to resolve, because according to that brilliant Yale lawyer who's the vice president of the United States, ICE has absolute immunity. They can do whatever they want. They can't be prosecuted. In fairness to him, he since has walked that back. That is a statement that would flunk a first-year law school exam to suggest that ICE has absolute immunity. They have what's called qualified immunity. They have to qualify for it by acting reasonably and lawfully. When they act unreasonably and unlawfully, they lose their immunity and they can be prosecuted. Shooting somebody in the back is murder, and there is no immunity for that.
Oh, they only shot him, what, 9 or 10 times, right?
Correct.
9 or 10 times, shooting this guy as he's on the ground with, what, about 8 guys around him.
Correct.
Shooting the hell out of him before they shot him.
Correct. And why did they shoot him? Because a lady came up to them, a middle-aged lady in her mid-50s came up to them with her video, and she was videoing them. They swatted the video out of the lady's hand and pushed her to the ground. Alex Preddy went to help her. picked her up. But while he was picking her up with his left hand and arm, he turned his video in the right hand on these creeps that had just pushed her to the ground. That's when they stole his video, wrestled him to the ground, removed his weapon from his holster, which was in the small of his back, took the weapon to the other side of the street, and then murdered him. That description I submit to you is a very fair description. I watched all the tapes that I could. There's about 15 different views of this.
But you know what you're writing about, Judge, is very important and all, but let's go to the mainstream media before we went on. These are the headline stories. BBC, Guthrie mystery. Suspect release, quote, "I'm innocent." Police release man detained in connection to Nancy Guthrie disappearance. ABC, person released after questioning as search for Nancy Guthrie's continues. CNN, Nancy Guthrie case, person released as search for armed individual continues. Reuters, one after another, shadow video, first known arrest makes big break in Nancy Guthrie abduction. Those are the headlines. This is an article in the World Socialist website. The Guthrie kidnapping, the U.S. media, and thousands of ICE abductions. They go on to say the kidnapping, how terrible it was, on and on. But they go, how the media is covering this while ignoring what's really going on. The Hill, for example, headlined its piece, "Search for Savannah Guthrie's mother captivates an alarmed nation." The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, has left much of the country on edge. These are the headlines from the papers. And again, they go on to say, USA Today, what they have to say, but how they're ignoring what's going on with what ICE is doing basically to the people day in and day out. This is the news. And again, what happened to that guy, Rob Reiner, when his kid killed him? How many weeks was that headline news? They're important. We're just pieces of shit, all right? They're celebrities. When a celebrity or somebody important gets killed, oh my God. But slaughter all these other people, that's fine. Don't even talk about it.
Well, that's the world we live in today. It makes what you and I and our colleagues do all the more important because we are dwelling on more important issues like Trump and Netanyahu planning to invade Iran and like ICE invading American streets. Profoundly more important. But, the attention span of the American public is very, very thin. There was a time when you and I used to joke about how more people were interested in Taylor Swift and her boyfriend, the football player, than these very profound issues that we talk about.
Yeah, this is the New York Times. Again, you and I remember when it used to be a different newspaper. Look at the front page. Look at these big pictures they have. That used to be all copy at one time. Yeah. That's what a newspaper used to look like.
Right.
And now it's one stupid picture. Look at this. What does this mean? Absolutely nothing.
I don't know who that's a picture of, but it looks like it's 1/3 of the page.
Exactly. There's no media. It's gone. And by the way, that's why you subscribe to the Trends Journal. We're giving you, the media is gone. There's no journalism anymore. We write about the facts. We're not prostitutes. And that's all this is. Judge, your article in here is so important for everyone to read. You write, we got here because of congressional indifference to constitutional norms and a judicial inclination to policymaking. The judiciary is an anti-democratic branch of government. It was not created to reflect public sentiment or establish public policy, as Congress and the presidency were, but to stand fast in protecting all persons from popular branches. But now, in the Fifth Court, where ICE can effectively arrest whomever it wishes without evidence, without a judicial warrant, without knowing the name of the person arrested, and without bail.
Whatever happened to the presumption of innocence? Whatever happened to the Bill of Rights? You and I joke that it's a bill of temporary privileges. In the Fifth Circuit, Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist from and after that opinion. Now, I'm convinced the opinion will be reversed. It's such an outlier. It's so much of an outlier that judges in other states have begun to criticize it, and district court judges, trial judges in those states subject to it have said, we're not going to follow it. This is just not the law as we understand it. Even though we're subject to these people, we're not going to follow them. But this is what is happening in America today.
Yes.
Some members of the judiciary are determined to make public policy, not to enforce the Constitution.
Again, we should not call this a police state. This is worse than a police state, as I see it. Again, these guys with their masks and ammunition and guns and all these weaponries and what they're doing, this is beyond police, as I see it. Again, that was the cover we seen a couple of weeks ago. By the way, here's this week's cover, Judge. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes, you sent it to me last night. I did see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one true thing he said.
Yeah. Yep. And I told you, my close combat teacher, Master John Perkins, and his teacher was Brad Steiner, the top close combat guy in America. The first thing we were taught, the only time your ego gets into place is when your life is on the line.
Right.
Otherwise, in all the facts, when you look up what ego means, it's all very disgusting.
Yes.
You know, Judge, you're talking about what's going on with Netanyahu here, and you have a number of people coming up on Judging Freedom. What's their take?
Well, their take is that Trump is being visited by his boss, and his boss will tell him what to do. And that boss is Bibi Netanyahu. Those people are coming up today: the great Phil Giraldi, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, and the great Scott Ritter.
Wow. This is
it's very sad what we're talking about, because the war is inevitable, and you can't contain war once it starts. And Trump is just listening to all these Lindsey Graham types that are around him. As far as we can tell, there's nobody in his inner circle suggesting restraint.
Look what we're doing to Cuba. What have the Cubans done to us?
Nothing. We are starving them literally, and they have done nothing to us. It's a war crime what we're doing, but who's going to enforce it?
You know, just to show you the hypocrisy, you know, I was just going through the Wall Street, the New York Times. By the way, we hardly get any articles here that are trend-worthy. Here, this is a big picture here. Look at this. Look at this. This is the Vietnamese leader has new power, and he's in a hurry to use it. All right? Look at this. Half a page, nothing but crap. But here's the deal. Do you realize that Vietnam is our second largest? We import more furniture, shoes, and clothing from Vietnam other than China. Now think about this. You and I grew up during the Vietnam War when they taught us to hate those commies, remember?
Right.
And if we don't stop them, those dominoes are going to keep falling, and they're going to hit the shore of California as the commies take over Asia. And then, all right. Now, I went to Vietnam in 1996 with my buddy, Gary Abatelli. We were one of the first Americans they allowed in, and they couldn't have been kinder. So I'm not saying anything negative about the Vietnamese. They're very nice people, and what we did to them is disgusting. But here's the lie that they sold us. We got to stop those commies. Hey, but now we're doing business with them. We're making a lot of money by importing their stuff because we've got manufacturers over there. That's okay.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy of this.
I know. I agree with you 100%. And I remember those days. We are of the same generation, and everywhere we were browbeaten into believing that the Vietnamese were monsters. And if we didn't stop them there, Southeast Asia would fall. You're right. And the next thing you know, they'd be in Hawaii and Los Angeles.
Yeah. And now we buy more products to them from China, another communist country. So this is how they teach us to hate communism when you go to war. But hey, we're sending, remember, Slick Willie Clinton allowed China to come into the World Trade Organization.
Wow.
So the Western manufacturers could go over there and get cheap labor. That was okay. It's okay to deal with the commies like that. But when you want to go to war, we'll make up any crap we want. So everybody go to Judging Freedom and see what the judge is having on there, because we're in a very serious time. Judge, if we go to war against Iran, I believe this is going to be the beginning of the end of life on Earth. This thing is going to expand into nuclear annihilation.
Wow. I love you, but I hope you're wrong. Obviously, I want the world to go on and people to live, but I don't think Trump and the crazies around him have the slightest handle on the fire that they will be igniting.
Yeah, again, there's that Samson option in Israel. If Israel starts losing, they say they're going nuclear.
Yes.
Now, I'm not making that up. That's their language.
Right.
So, Judge, thanks for being on. And everybody, again, go to Judging Freedom, because you're going to hear and see what you're not going to find anywhere else. See you next week, Judge.
Thank you, Gerald. All the best.